What's the most insane coincidence you've experienced? My family used to take little summer vacations. One summer, I was about 7 to 8, we stayed at a campground about 4 hours from home. There were a bunch of kids there, and one day, we all started playing tag. I was IT, and was chasing another young boy, and when I tagged him, I pushed him too hard and he fell and broke his arm. I remember the scene vividly. Fast forward to college. I became good friends with my neighbor in the dorm, and we ended up getting a place together our sophomore year. The following year, no longer living together, we went out for a few beers and the topic of broken bones came up. I've only broken one bone, and it was my arm when I was 7. Some kid at a campground pushed me over while playing tag. It was me. Still can't believe it. I would have asked to touch the arm he had broken and then pretended to divine the details. Location, color of shirt, etc. That's because I am a dick, though. An American friend of mine by the name of Tom took his family on vacation to check out Antarctica. He met an Australian guy named Paul on Christmas Day in Antarctica. They didn't exchange contact info. A year later, Christmas Day, they take their vacation to Machu Picchu. He is looking down at a map when he hears, "Hey Tom, how the hell are you?" It was Paul, taking his family on their annual trip as well. I was once mugged by 4 guys on one of the main shopping streets of Nairobi, Kenya. One of the guys had me in a choke hold, and just before I was about to pass out, they dropped me and ran. At the time I didn't know why. 12 months later, sitting on a beach on an island in Thailand, I meet a British couple who did business in Kenya, and we start to talk about how dangerous it was getting for foreigners. They described an incident the year before of turning a corner and seeing a white guy being mugged, and a shopkeeper rescued him by hitting one of them over the head with a bat. They were in the same street, on the same day, at the exact same time I was there. It was me who they witnessed being mugged. What are the odds of randomly meeting up on a beach in Thailand a year later? My first semester of college, I moved out of state. I was first to move into the apartment and had a few days to myself. After orientation, I found my new roommate sitting on his bed. When I introduced myself, he asked where I was from. When I told him, he said, "I used to have a friend named Simon." I said I used to have a friend named Will. We were best friends in 1st and 2nd grade until his family moved. About 10 years ago, I tried to get into Six Flags with a tiny keychain Swiss Army knife. It literally had a dull 1-inch blade. They told me I could either throw it away, take it to my car a mile away, or rent a locker for like $10. So I decided to hide it in the planter. I looked down and saw a big piece of bark laying in the dirt and figured it would be a good hiding place. I picked it up and found another fucking mini Swiss Army knife. I placed mine next to the first and went into the park. When I returned, the other knife was gone and a smiley face was etched into the dirt in its place. Similar. I went to a concert in Dallas and took 2 lawn chairs. They wouldn't let me bring them in, so being 6 feet 5 inches, I threw them on top of a very tall bush. No one would have even seen them, and hardly anyone would be able to reach them. As I'm pulling them down after the concert, I pulled down 4 of the exact same chair. I only brought 2 though. Up walks a guy who is as tall as I am, wearing the exact same Blink-182 tour shirt from 2009, and the other 2 chairs were his. It was pretty wild. We smoked a doob, did a tall guy high five, then parted ways. When I was a dumbass teenager in the 80s, we would drive around town at night in my friend's blue '66 Mustang and spray people with an old water fire extinguisher. Fast forward 10 years and I'm selling a house. Our primary buyer, an older retired lady, backs out last minute. Our realtor drops by to tell my wife and I why. She explains that while waiting our gate to be buzzed in, some teenagers drove by and shot the old lady with an airsoft gun. Damn. She then continues, "Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with kids. When I first came to America 10 years ago, we were sitting at a bus stop when a group of boys in a nice blue car drove up smiling. When they got closer, they drenched us with some water spray. Edit, second offer was for $20K more. Karma?" When I was in high school, I was aimlessly playing around our library one day. Like any large public high school, our library had literally thousands of books quietly tucked away in shelves, and rarely, if ever, touched. That day I pulled a book at random from a shelf in the back, and sat down to read it. After opening it, a slip of paper fell out, and I quickly recognized the -10 digits written on it as a phone number. I hastily read the number, and it was my older sister's number, who had graduated my high school years earlier. Someone wrote her number and tucked it away into a random book in the back, until I found it years later. I lived exactly a mile away from my now husband throughout our entire childhoods, teenager years, and early adulthood before we'd even heard of each other and met. And what's even stranger is, when he was running, he'd know he'd ran 1 mile exactly when he got outside my house and would regularly stop and time himself. Edit 1, for people asking if the sex was good. I married him, didn't I? Winky face. Edit 2, the sex is still good, winky face. One time I parked, without even noticing, next to a car with the same license plate as me. I had a MA plate, she had her NH plate, both with the same 5-digit number. The weirder thing was that both of us had kept the plate as a novelty plate because the state wasn't making 5-digit plate numbers anymore, but a family member wanted to keep it. In my case, my dad wanted to keep his dad's plate. When I was about 12, it was the late 90s, and I was really big into Pokemon cards. My mom took me to a card shop and I really wanted a Dragonite. But it was like $12 or whatever. My mom said, why don't you just get 2 card packs for that money, you get way more cards. Obviously she didn't understand what the fuck a Dragonite was. But she only ended up buying me a pack. First card? Fucking Dragonite. It was crazy. My aunt died young on October 3rd of 2007. On October 2nd, 2008, I was a senior in high school. I was in my art class one morning sitting at a table of 4, when the teacher tells one person from each table to go and grab a stack of newspapers for us to sculpt on so that the tables don't get all messed up with clay. Another guy spreads out the newspapers, and then I begin to work. I noticed that the paper at my seat is the obituary pages. I casually begin to read it and realize that the paper is a year old, and the obituary listing exactly under my right hand was that of my aunt, who had died a full 365 days before. I'd like to think it was her way of saying hello and what's up, and to make sure I wasn't sculpting anything grossly sexually inappropriate. This coincidence is straight up sorcery. Was kayaking with my family along a river when I thought I would pull a fast one on my brother. So I yell, hey, look, a bald eagle, to my brother so I can do the whole made you look game. But to my surprise he goes cool. At this point I think he is just messing with me, so I can't say the whole made you look thing. So then I look up and a bald eagle swoops down, catches a fish, and flies to the other side of the river. One of the most magical coincidences ever. I have a rare genetic disorder called Wilson's disease. Roughly 1 in 30,000 have it. Basically, my body can't get rid of copper and stores it, and I am now suffering from the effects of heavy metal copper poisoning. It's an autosomal recessive disorder, meaning both my parents carry the defective gene. My mom was born in France, my dad was born in Uruguay. What are the chances that 2 people from pretty much on the opposite sides of the world meet and have the same genetic defect for the same rarest disease? But wait, there's more. I was born on February 12th. Who else has a February 12th birthday? Abraham Lincoln. What coin is he on? The penny. What are pennies made of? At least the outside part, copper. I'm pretty much made up of a lot of coincidences. Edit, words. I'm from Quebec, where our French has a very distinctive accent. It's very rare to hear it outside of the province, and my ears are super sensitive to it and pick it up quickly. I now work in Taiwan, and one day I hear someone behind me speak with a Quebecois accent, so I immediately turn around. Turned out to be someone I went to high school with. Back when I was in the army, I was sent to Fort Gordon, Georgia to learn a new MOS. I was running around base one day with a friend and noticed a female private with a hoodie that said Apache on the back. I commented on it to my buddy and didn't think anything more of it. Fast forward about 9 months. After graduation, my next duty station was the Pentagon. I meet a girl there, we talk, end up hooking up, turns into dating. One day, she puts on her army hoodie, and when she turns around, it says Apache on the back. We have been married for 19 years yesterday. A few years ago I was in a hurry for some reason I forget, and I had to run out in the rain to our shed to get something really quick. On my way, I dropped the key to the shed and couldn't find it because our grass was pretty long. I had spent several minutes scouring the ground in the rain, and in my annoyance I thought something along the lines of, "Come on, God, help me out here." It wasn't really a prayer, even though I was Christian at the time, but suddenly the clouds parted a bit and the rain slowed down. I looked up and kind of laughed, thinking, great, now help me find the key. No shit, looked down and there the key was, glinting in the sun, right between my feet. In high school, my friend set me up with her boyfriend's cousin, let's call him Jack. Jack and I were walking around an amusement park and started talking about recent family spring break vacations. Turns out, both Jack and I had been in Las Vegas during the same week. We stayed at the same hotel. The conversation changed subjects when Jack stopped in the middle of the sidewalk and said, "I saw you in Las Vegas." I thought he was full of crap, there's no way he would remember some random girl among the thousands of people there. He told me the exact place he saw me, and that my sister and I were posing for a photo. We got back to my house and found the picture. There were Jack and his brother in the background. I have a unisex name, let's say it's Ashley. Anyway, I was at a nightclub and was talking to this girl. I asked her name and she said it was Ash, and I said haha worried, I'm Ash too. But what is your last name? She says Green. I just stare at her for like 10 seconds then reach into my wallet and pull out my ID. We have the same first and last name. Currently engaged. In 9th grade there was a girl in my class born on the same day as me. We actually went on a couple of dates. Then in 11th grade there was another girl in my class born on the same day as me. No, we didn't date. My brother's ex-girlfriend also has the same birthday as me, a few years apart. At one point I remember walking through the school. In many classes there were the students' names and birthdays hanging on the wall, and I swear that in nearly half the classes I could find someone with the same birthday as me. At one point I had a girlfriend. Less than a month after we broke up, I started dating another girl who had the same birthday as my ex, 2 years apart. I got a weird thing with birthdays. About a year ago I found a playing card on the floor, the 6 of clubs. I met up with a friend later that day. She had no idea about the card, and I asked her to think of any card, then pulled it out, and it had been the card she was thinking of, and she freaked out about it, thought I had done something. So now I keep that card in my phone case, and whenever I meet a celebrity I get them to sign it. TLDR, found a card, friend guessed what it was, edit, punctuation. A few years ago I was sitting enjoying some pints of beer outside on a corner of a pub. I saw two people, man and woman, arriving with their mobile at their ear and stopping on each side of the corner. They were talking on their mobile and could clearly see each other. The conversation went something like this, -them, so where are you no? -w, let me see, at the corner of pub such and so, -m, I see, I try to make it in a half an hour or so. -w, that would be great, I keep a chair for you. After this the conversation went apart. These two people were not talking to each other and probably did not even know each other. It was a weird sensation, as if they were playing a joke or something. When I was in grade 2, our family moved from Manitoba to Arizona for a year due to a contract my dad was working. We rented out the house fully furnished for the year. While in Arizona, we flew to Alberta one weekend. On the flight from Arizona to Alberta, I sat beside a boy my age and we started talking. It went something like this, me, what city are you from? Him, Winnipeg. Me too. Me, what school do you go to? Him, school name. Me, cool, I used to go there too. Me, what street do you live on? Him, street name. Me, I lived on that street. It turns out, his family was renting our house while we were gone. So I was sitting beside the boy who was sleeping in my bed while we were in Arizona. I lost a $5 bill out the window of my car once. I pulled into a gas station a few miles later, and as soon as I step out of the car I land right on a $5 bill. I like to pretend it's the same one. It just missed me. I managed to bump into friends in a foreign country twice. Once it was in London in front of St. Paul's Cathedral, the other time in Palermo at night in front of a bar. Both times both of us were oblivious of the fact the other one was there too. And while it's probably not too weird to walk into somebody in Palermo, it's really not that big, fucking London. We were pretty flabbergasted. Oh man, this reminds me of a bloke I met in China. We hung out for a few days then parted company. 6 months later I walked into a pub in London and met him at the bar. I cannot decide which is weirder. 1. Did a summer Shakespeare thing for teenagers. Next summer, one of the assistant directors puts together a trip to London for a group of us. We go to London, and while visiting the Globe Theatre, we run into another kid who was in the same Shakespeare thing we all were, except he was in London for separate reasons. 2. Go out to dinner to celebrate my wife's birthday. Sat next to a couple. We start talking. The wife is also celebrating her birthday and it's on the same day. Ha ha. Crazy. We hit it off and exchange information to hang out again. 2 months later I invite them to my birthday party and turns out the husband has the same birthday as me. This is too low to be seen, but what the hell? When I was about 20, I was in a car accident. This girl T-boned my new car. We exchanged information and it turned out we were both born on the exact same date. I asked her where she was from and she came from the same small city I did, 1,000 miles away, and was living 2 blocks from my apartment. Even our initials were the same. It was like I collided with myself from an alternate gender universe. I never saw her again. In grad school I ordered about a dozen books through interlibrary loan. I failed to pick them up on time and was told they had been sent back to their respective libraries all over the country and I would have to go through the process again. Going through the process again would be such a hassle that I delayed doing it. A week or two later I am in the library book checkout line behind a girl when I hear her tell the checkout guy these aren't the books I ordered. I look over her shoulder and they are the books I ordered, all of them, the ones I had been told had been sent back. Think about the odds of my being in that line the very moment that girl received my books. Or even why the books were still there. Or one night I was walking home, about to cross the street to my house, and a guy who lived in the house next to me, who I had never spoken to, almost hit me with his car pulling out of his parking spot. A few days later, I was playing my bass guitar in my bedroom, which was on the 2nd floor overlooking the street. I saw that same guy walking around looking around, most likely looking for where that sound was coming from. I felt bad and lowered my volume. It just so happened that same week I had posted an ad on Craigslist looking for musicians to start a band with. The morning after the day he heard me, I got a response, and it ended up being my neighbor. I went camping for my birthday 2 years ago. We went to a small little river site in Sacramento. The first day that we were there, we were sitting on the bench and I found a small piece of paper upside down on the seat. I turned it over, and it was an address sticker. It has a man's name on it, and an address from a city in Southern California, the same one that I grew up in. I then read the address more closely. It was my old next-door neighbor's address. The sticker was old and tattered, so who knows how long it had been there, but the chances of my old neighbor driving over 400 miles to this campsite and staying at the exact spot as I did still blows my mind to this day. I keep the sticker in my wallet now as proof of this ridiculous coincidence. When I got in 5th grade, my maths teacher was the same who had already taught my mom. Yes, he was over 70 years old at this time, but continued teaching because he loved his job. One of the greatest teachers I ever had. Not very coincidental, you could say, but we lived in a different city than where she went to school. Edit, some words. One year I was really bummed because I was too broke to buy my mom anything for Christmas. I was intending to get her a Wii, but I never got the money together for it. December 23rd comes along and I'm hanging out in my living room with my cousin and I get a knock on the door. I was surprised to see a delivery guy as I hadn't ordered anything. I signed for the package and he hands me a huge box. I open it to find that I had evidently been entered into a contest for ordering pizza and won a Wii Sports Resorts, a couple of extra Wiimotes and Motion Pluses. Mom was super happy that year. Of course, I never told her how I got it. At a school dance in 9th grade, I spotted this insanely hot guy across the dance floor. My friend happened to know him and talked to him for me. She pointed me out to him, asked if he wanted to dance with me, and he did. We're slow dancing to some 90s song and get to talking about how we were kinda new to the school. Turns out we're both army brats. Turns out that we both lived in upstate New York when we were little kids. Turns out we went to the same school. Turns out we were best friends in kindergarten. Fast forward, I shared my first kiss with him, unfortunately at my going away party a few weeks later since I was moving again, and will never forget it. Best coincidence ever. My junior year in high school, we had a transfer student come in from out of state. He immediately started hanging out with me and my friends. We lived together in college and worked together at many different restaurants and odd jobs. I was the best man at his wedding. Prior to transferring into our school, I had never heard of him or his family. As it would turn out, our mothers went to high school, not the same high school we attended, together and actually knew each other quite well. Our grandfathers built houses together back in the 1950s and knew each other very well. Now our children are friends. That's for generations linked by coincidence. When I first started high school, I became friends with a group of 3 guys. We were best friends for 2 years, then sort of went our separate ways as we joined other cliques. After high school I didn't see those guys for years, but then one summer I went back to my small town and ran into 2 of the 3. We all got the same tattoo, some stupid little tribal symbol that I got on a whim when I turned 18 because I could get a tattoo. I got mine on my left calf, one of the guys got his on his right calf and the other got his on his right bicep. The same exact tattoos, same color, same size. I was traveling with my family for about 8 months all around the world, hitting up every continent along the way. On our first destination, Chile, we met an older couple who was also traveling. Talked to them a bit and found out they lived just 20 minutes from our home. We then ran into them again in Australia and Thailand. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Love.